Hello, and today we'll continue with Temptation's Ballad. He ordered me exchange terrified looks before bolting in the direction of Soul's arcane curiosities. 1 hour earlier, Market District, Soul's arcane curiosities. So the shopkeeper poked his head through the front door and squinted. Waves of shoppers and tourists swarmed the streets, passing by his shop without a second glance. What a relief. Unsurprisingly, a dinky old arcane shop wasn't exactly a hot locale during festival season. So flipped up the closed sign at his storefront before slinking into the back of the shop where no passerby could catch sight of him. I'll keep people out of my way for a while. This is utterly outrageous. The old man nearly jumped out of his skin as he glared at the grumpy python sunning himself on the counter. Dude, keep it down. My grievances will be heard. While we hold up in this dusty shop, there are festivities to attend and food stalls to sample. So shot a cautious glance at the storefront before letting out a sigh. In a flash of white mist, the old shopkeeper's figure melted away to reveal a extremely irritated coal. Stuff it, Snake. I don't want to listen to you complain for the entire hour that we gotta spend babysitting this pace. Malice curled up in an indignant ball and rolled his eyes. Ah yes, your asinine plan where you jump through ridiculous hoops to trick your friends into helping each other. You could have just told them your idea from the get-go and saved yourself the trouble. Cole scowled but was interrupted by Malice flipping his head back in a dramatic flourish. Oh, but wise demon, my friends couldn't possibly trust me to make good decisions for their well-being without an ulterior motive. Nay, impersonating and manipulating them is surely the better option. The urge to trap the snake under a bowl again was overwhelming. There were a lot of jars lying around the shop. The thick glass should hold Noodle's incessant babbling for at least a little while. Oh, it was so tempting. The snake shot Cole an annoyed look. Our minds are linked, you fool. Don't you even dare. What? You can't blame a guy for wanting to some peace and quiet and ignore the truth. Cole grumbled and sank down his chair. I told you already, nobody trusts me enough to just roll with my ideas. They always think there's a catch. It's easier to just string them along like this. It's worked pretty well so far. Malice frowned. Why do you always believe that people assume the worst of you? That feels like an awfully sad way to live. Cole stifled. The words stung more than he liked to admit. His shoulders went rigid as he fumbled for something to retort with. After a beat, the hyena cleared his throat loudly and reached for a nearby jar. You've got about 10 seconds to change the subject. Well, wait, no jars. They're horrible for my back pain, especially as a snake. The demon slithered out of the counter and onto Cole's lap with a thoughtful look. Tell you what, there's something I've been meaning to speak to you about regarding our little demon host relationship. Cole yawned and unscrewed the jar. If this is another one of your demonic sales pitches, I'm not interested. The python flicked his tongue with excitement. Nay, this is no pitch, my puny mortal. It is an updated terms of service. You don't even have to agree or sign anything, for I have already given you a small portion of my power free of charge. Consider this a free trial of sorts. Cole sat up incredulously. What the hell did you do? I have considered your feedback on my negotiation skills and have decided on a new tactic. Why not give you a taste of my powers with no strings attached? Surely this will entice you to a full contract with me in the future. How does this power work exactly? I don't feel any different. Well, after examining you for the past few days, I've concluded that your magical foundation is whack as all hell. Your body has absolutely zero offensive capabilities, none. But you've also got extraordinary proficiency with sensory spellcasting. You are able to control illusions, trickery, and detection spells well above the skill set of the average bard. Her demon's eyes glow red as she grinned with excitement. And thus I give you the ability to cast detect thoughts, detect magic, and ghostly gaze. And of course, it boosts your illusion abilities too. Cole flipped his wrist and spelled mentally. Sparks of arcane magic danced between his fingers. That's it? No fireballs or anything? It's a free trial. You get what you pay for. Not that it would make any difference, honestly. Your body is completely incompatible with offensive spellcasting. It's very strange, it's almost like you're built differently compared to other mortals. Cole sighed and slumped back in his chair. I'll take what I can get, I guess. At least this ghostly gaze should come in handy. I'm still tweeting about how you described that Knight Commander. I always had a thing for bears. The south door suddenly swung open. Cole and Malice immediately dove behind the counter in mutual panic. Nobody was supposed to come in here. Cole cleared his throat and gave his best impression of an old man's voice. Sorry, bud, but we're closed. Didn't you see the sign? The visitor did not answer. There was a pause before the front door was slammed closed. Up your old twist again, I see. Cole felt his blood run cold. Slowly he stood up from behind the counter to find himself face to face with a venomous Clyde. Hey, buddy, aren't you supposed to be at the tournament right now? The tiger's sharp gaze pierced through him like a knife. You're not as clever as you think, and I refuse to fall for another one of your schemes. That's not... Look, I can explain. I don't want to hear it. Every time I lend you the tiniest ounce of trust, you always manage to stab me in the back somehow. A few days ago, when you cast Charm Person on me, where I had my guard down. But what? You weren't supposed to remember. Oh, but I did. The tiger growled. I've been giving you the benefit of the doubt for too long, Cody Bonebreaker. You're like a poison, ruining lives wherever you go. And I need you gone. I'm sorry, Clyde. I really am. I just wanted to make it up to you somehow. Cole's chest lurched painfully as Clyde stepped closer. His cold eyes peered down at him with disgust. A heavy silence hung in the air before the tiger let out a tired sigh. I didn't want it to come to this either, Cole. But I think it would be best we parted ways, for both our sakes. Cole hung his head low. Yeah, I know. Clyde paused before taking a deep breath. Listen, if you really want to make it up to me, I have a small favor to ask. Cole's chest felt heavy as he stared down at the cold floor. Anything you need, just ask. I know you stole one of the rubies during that tussle at the fighting ring. I want it back. Cole's eyes widened. The ruby? Even one of those rubies would sell for a fortune. I could use that to rebuild my future. Maybe even use some money to negotiate with the blacksmithing guild. Clyde gave him a look of pain and desperation. Can you afford to do that for me, this one favor? That's all I ask. Cole grew quiet. His friend's face was a pain mix of defeat and desperate hopefulness. If all he needed was one more favor, how could he possibly deny him? Cole hesitated for a moment before slowly reaching down towards Malice, hiding behind the counter. The demon's voice suddenly echoed through their mind link of utter disbelief. You can't possibly be serious. Just turn back into a ruby, Malice. You give me up to someone else just like that? I won't accept this. You are my Peter Mortal. Damn it. I refuse to be passed on to anyone else. Come on, Malice. With me. For a moment, he could feel the tiny snake tremble in his grip. Aye. Clyde suddenly spoke up, startling the two out of their exchange. What's the matter? You having second thoughts? No, I was just rummaging through my pockets. One moment. There was a small moment of hesitation between the two of them. Cole's heart sank as he felt Malice silently coiled up and transformed into a cold gem in his grasp. He lifted his hand over the counter to reveal a dark blood-red ruby. Clyde stared at him with a mix of fascination and suspicion. The tiger cautiously reached for it. I appreciate it, Coleslaw. Just hope you're not trying to pull one of your illusion switcheroos like you did at the fighting way. I'm not. I sincerely want to help you. Cole suddenly froze. He took a step back and glared, clutching the ruby close to his chest. Clyde looked, taken aback before letting out a low growl. What are you up to? I got a better question. Who are you? In a split moment, despite the tiger's attempt to hide it, his face betrayed the smallest glint, the smallest hint of surprise and guilt. Those are the confirmation Cole needed. I knew something felt off. How do you know about my little illusion switcheroos? The real Clyde was unconscious in his office the first time I used that trick in the fighting ring. And during the second time, he was busy wrestling Sid in the hallways. His only exposure to my magic was a charmed person that you supposedly remember. The target began clumsily stumbling over his words as he tried to regain his footing. The other folks in the fighting ring told me about it. They were all being mind-controlled with no memory of the event. But your paladin friend still wasn't. Now you expect me to believe that ought to be spilled my secrets? That's a real stretch. Out with it, asshole. Who are you? Clyde's alarmed expression suddenly melted away into a look of amusement. All the tension dropped from his body language as the tiger laughed loudly. Whoops, my bad, I suppose. I'm a bit out of practice. He smirked. You asked who am I, little mortal? The tiger's body suddenly melted into a mass of black mist as he continued cackling with glee. Churning mist flickered through a myriad of familiar faces before slowly condensing into what looked like a mirror image. Cole stared in shock as his own face sneered back at him. Things took a strange turn when a deep woman's voice rumbled from his mirror image's throat. You're not the only imposter around here, little mortal. I'm Zelos, a faceless and envy demi. Pleased to meet you, Cody Bonebreaker. You mind if I borrow your cute little face for a bit? I use my own, but I don't have one. The drawbacks of being an envy demon, I suppose. Cole gaped silently at his own smug face. This felt too surreal. The ruby in his grip suddenly poofed back into a furiously hissing python. Malice glared at the imposter with utter annoyance. Zell, what in the world do you think you're doing? What is that weird worm you got there? Wait, is that Malice? The doppelganger cackled wildly. What is that ridiculous form? Oh, my dear baby brother, did you mess up the landing while we traveled to the material plane? I told you to tuck your wings in when we made the jump. Malice spluttered indignantly. I'll have you know that I'm in this form on purpose. Yes, I'm simply blending in with the mortals, you see. Zealous squinted at the little snake dubiously. Right. How much negative emotions have you managed to collect with this little strategy of yours? I it's a work in progress. I've taken up our dear brother's approach of quality over quantity. This puny mortal is full of delicious insecurities. I will coach quality when most is out of him yet. Jealous-eyed Cole, like one might eye slightly moldy food. This one? You haven't even made a pact with him yet, have you? I'm a temptation demon, dear sister. My prey requires time and effort to convert of their own free will, unlike your shallow little dalliances. Sure, I hate to break it to you, little brother, but I've come to ruin your little fun. The imposter's expression suddenly turned into a sinister leer. As much as I loathe working with my siblings, my pet partner wants another demon at their disposal. Malice, you're coming with me. Sever your ties to this useless mortal and come along with your big sister. Malice hissed and coiled around Cole's arms possessively. Absolutely not. This one is mine. Zealous wrinkled her nose. Don't get attached to mortals, Malice. You are an infernal demon, timeless. These mortals wither and die at the drop of a hat, hardly worth the effort. Speaking of which, the temperature in the south abruptly dropped to a biting cold. A sinister glow filled Zealous's eyes as he turned towards Cole. Cold-deep bonebreaker, was it? You're quite lucky. Under most circumstances, I would have just slaughtered you outright and plucked my brother from your cold, dead hands. Unless my pet partner has taken an interest in you for some reason and asked me not to kill you. Pet partner. This one. You know, the one you had a little tussle with a few days ago. Cole watched wide-eyed as the demon reached up to grasp the edge of her sword. Little did you know that their real identity is actually... Boo. Huh. You didn't think I'd actually tell you, right? Cole felt a little sick. The sight of a headless woman cackling wildly was disturbing, to say the least. He could hear the sneer in her voice as he faced him. Anyway, my pet partner doesn't want you dead for whatever reason. However, it's been a while and my hand might accidentally slip. Hand over my little brother and you may walk out if you're alive. Resist and I'll crush you into a bloody pulp. Understood? Cole took a step back, eyes darting around the south one, escape route. Well, Malice and I have this weird mind-linking thing going on. If you kill me, your little brother is going to die too. Zello snorted as he put her hood back up. What part of being immortal don't you understand? Sure, Malice might end up becoming a puddle of black must that I have to scrape off the floor, but he will form eventually. You, on the other hand, have no such luxury. So what will it be? Cole gulped and gritted his teeth. He silently reached out towards Malice in their mental mind link. See, she can't be serious, can she? I'm not sure if you noticed yet, but my sister's a bit of a bitch. I've heard of squabbling siblings, but she's really okay with outright killing you. We are immortals. This is kind of the demonic equivalent of a fussy mother insisting you change out of your old clothes. Your fleshy, fragile bodies are clothing in this metaphor. Cole took another step back, digging a hand through his pockets. So what you're saying is that if I don't get out of here, I will absolutely die. As much as I hate to admit it. Even if you form a pact, if you form a true pact with me right now, we have nowhere near the strength to oppose my sister. I hope you have some clever tricks up your sleeves, puny mortal. Are you too done with your little mental rambling? I'm not a very patient woman. Zealous' sharp voice cut through their exchange like a knife. Her imposing figure approached, the biting cold air of the south growing more painful with every step. So, what will it be, boys? Will you make the smart decision, or will I have to scrape you off the floor? Think fast. A blinding shockwave knocked Zelos off her feet, and tossed her against the shop's walls. The air was thick with the sound of lightning, broken wood, and shattered glass. After a moment, her vision returned along with a hoarse ringing in her ears. She snarled and struggled to pick herself off the floor. And the place was demolished. Zelos lifted her head up just in time to catch Cole leaping through the wreckage and escaping through the hole in the wall. She snarled and flicked her wrist in his direction. A slender flash of arcane light erupted from her hand and struck the hyena on the back of the neck as he darted down the street. Cole stumbled for a moment, a hand grasping painfully at the spot where he was hit. After a beat, the hyena regained his footing and continued his mad dash to safety. Zelos watched her prey disappear in the busy crowd with an amused sneer. It's been so long since I've had a good hunt in the material plane. Well, little mortal, make this fun for me, won't you? The back of his neck was a mass of searing pain as Cole scrambled down the street. He pressed a hand against it gingerly. It hurt, but it didn't feel like it broke skin or was too serious. Cole shook his head and dove into the nearest crowd he could. Maybe a passing adventurer or city watch could get him to safety or at least help fend off the demon chasing him. He opened his mouth to beg for help, but no sound came out. A coppery taste of blood suddenly gurgled up from the back of his throat. The people surrounding him in the crowd were too busy with their own festival activities to notice his plight. He coughed and rasped, trying to at least catch someone's attention with a shout, but couldn't muster out a single word. Was this some sort of silencing spell? Cole swallowed and panted breathlessly. That demon was trying to prevent him from getting help. Well, if yelling into the crowd was an option, he glanced around and ran towards the nearest arcane tower on the street. Pressing his hand against the cold crystal, he surged his magic to try and trigger the alarm spell. Huh? No response? He tried smacking the crystal instead, but no luck. So much for state-of-the-art security. Cole felt malice weave uncomfortably in his pocket, clearly trying to deal with the pain he felt through their mind link. I can smell the stink of my sister's magic in this crystal. I think she tampered with it somehow. You better be careful, puny mortal. There's something weird about that spell she hit you with. Cole glanced around the jam-packed streets and towards Soul's shop in the distance. This was the nearest crystal to the shop, but no alarms were set off from his little explosion with Artemis' Thunderwave crystal. She must have disabled most of the nearby security before coming to find me. Cole growled and pushed his way further down the street. Fine then. She shouldn't have tampered with all of them. Let's try the crystal set up further away. In this thick crowd, he had no idea Zelos was pursuing him, but he best put some distance between himself and the shop. Even if she was a demon, she wouldn't dare start a fight in the middle of this crowded. The tournament arena was just a short walk away. He should try to reunite with Artemis instead, or hopefully run to a church night or city watch on his way there. His left shoulder suddenly exploded in a burst of white, hot pain. Cole felt his vision blur as a spray of warmth spilled down his arm. His mouth was agape in an agonizing scream, but no sound came out. He sucked in a deep breath and pressed a hand against the raw wound. It burned. Was this an acid arrow? He didn't see where it came from, but to think the demon landed such a clean shot in this crowd. Cole let out the loudest rasp he could manage to grab the hem of a passing merchant. Please, some help, anyone. The merchant looked. The merchant took one look at him, scowled, and kicked loose from Cole's trembling grip. Get lost, kid. I ain't got time for trunks at this hour. Cole gaped in shock. The other people in the crowd were actively avoiding eye contact with him. When he tried to plead for help or pull on their sleeves, he was quickly shaken off. What in the world was happening? Was he bleeding out in the middle of the street here? He was bleeding out in the middle of the street here. Cole felt Malice poke his head out from his pockets. The side of the little snake's head was covered in blood. There was a small hole near the shoulder where he too sported a similar wound to Cole. My sister specializes in illusions, just like you. And she loves playing with her food. I think she must have hit you with some sort of illusory spell that disguises you from everyone here. These people probably see you as another lowly drunken hooligan at this festival. Cole's eyes widened, so nobody could see his wounds or notice that he's being shot down. Dread slowly set in as Cole realized he was completely alone in this crowd. There was no help. He scarcely had time to register the flash of green out the corner of his eye before another acid arrow rocketed out of the sky and shot through his left thigh. Cole let out a silent scream, grasping a gaping wound as his leg gave out from under him. His head felt hot, his senses growing a feverish haze from the pain. Through gritted teeth, Cole dragged himself around a street corner before collapsing into a panting heap. Nervous sweat soaked Cole's brow as he kept an eye behind him. He needed to keep his cool and figure a way out of this mess. My sister's a spell sniper. Hiding behind cover won't do you much good. She could strike you down through this crowd while standing at the other end of the street if she wanted to. A frustrated hiss escaped Cole's bloody throat. Great. That would have been helpful to hear 5 minutes ago, jackass. Got any more nuggets of wisdom for me? Preferably something that'll help us get out of this mess. Well, Zelos is probably hiding nearby among the crowd in a disguise. She's a perfect safe shifter and even acquires the memories of whoever she turns into. The little snake shivered. Zelos likes to watch as she slowly whittles down her prey. Your sister sounded like an ass. Cole squeezed his eyes closed and desperately sorted through his current options. He had an arcane crystal with cured wounds, but only one. It would suck if he spent it now and got absolutely pulverized later. Best save it for a true critical moment for a final burst of life. Cole opened his mouth and tried to speak, but that silencing spell was still in effect. And here was the other problem. Most of his spells required both a verbal and somatic component in order to be cast. A short verbal incantation along with a somatic flick of the wrist or snap of the fingers. Being silenced has cut off most of his powerful spellcasting options, even with the new spells Malice provided from him earlier. Only minor illusion, prestidigitation, and this new ghostly gaze didn't require a verbal component to cast. None of those options could really help him mount an offensive. Cole took a deep breath and tried his best to ignore the burning pain of acid from his bleeding wounds. Zelos was hiding in this crowd, sniping him down in this grotesque hunt. He was utterly alone. Waiting for help was not an option. His best chance for survival was to identify Zelos in this crowd and then land a solid hit to break her concentration on this illusion and silencing spell from. Then he might actually get the crowd to come to his aid. That's a solid plan, my puny mortal. But keep in mind that my sister is nothing like that coward kid. She won't lose concentration from a simple knock over the head. I know that. Just give me a moment to think. Another acid arrow veered around the corner. Cole threw himself to the side and hissed as it cut a deep gash in his side. He had stayed in one spot for too long. He needed to move. Cole stumbled back out into the street with a heavy limp and scanned the crowd furiously, his skull throbbing with pain. He surged arcane energy into his eyes, his sight sharpening with magical precision. Ghostly gaze. His field of view widened, vision piercing past every object and person in his path. Everything in the vicinity was in his sight, no matter how hidden. But he still couldn't see where his attacker was coming from. Noodle, what kind of silly spells have you been peddling to me? I told you before, my sister's a near-perfect safe sister. Demons' magical abilities are beyond your mortal grasp. I doubt even a detached magic could help you identify her disguise. Oh, great. Out of the thousands of people swarming this street, how was he supposed to figure out who Zealous is disguised as? Unless it was a sudden tug at his waist. Cole whipped around to see a familiar thief attempting to pickpocket him, but getting nothing from the tiny belt around his waist. Damn, I was hoping for an easy score on drunks at this festival. Doesn't look like you got anything, do ya? The cat snickered with his usual cocky smile. Emil abruptly frowned. He squinted at Cole as though attempting to peer through a thick haze. Wait a sec, aren't you one of the folk I stole from a few days ago? He looked familiar. Cole stared at the little urchin for several long moments, the gears of his mind slowly turning. His gaze hardens. Yes, he will do. Meanwhile, across the street, Zealous hummed cheerfully as he skipped down the street, happily taking in the crisp air of the material plane. There was a satisfied beat to establish she flexed the little feet of her new disguising body. Oh, mortals, they never suspect the little ones, do they? She had been hoping for a more thrilling hunt, but it appeared Malice's new host was far more frazzled than expected. Oh well, at least he could still enjoy the pleasant festival atmosphere. I still don't understand why Malice couldn't just come with me willingly. He's gotten too attached to this little mortal. It was foolish. Mortals burn and faded quicker than insects at the edge of winter. Disposing of this mortal should be as simple as setting a change of clothes. Why must her little brother be so difficult? It should be a matter of time before his current host expires. Zealous blinked and caught a flash of gold out the corner of her eye. A young urchin was laughing as he scurried down the street with a massive arm of... Who would have thought I could snag such a big score today? This is great. Panicked Spider Zealous stumbled backwards. Those crystals looked charged with the same spell that blasted a hole through the shop earlier, and there were enough of them to blow up the entire street. Was Malice's mortal willing to use his child as a sacrificial decoy? Oh fuck. Zealous felt her heart skip a beat as the urchin stumbled. The urchin tripped and fell to the ground, losing his grip as all the crystals clattered across the street. Upon impact, the crystals glow, intensified with a harsh, metallic hiss. Zilla scrambled for cover with her hands over her head, bracing for the explosion. But there was only silence. She glanced up in confusion. What? My signies. They all turned into worthless rocks. That drunken little shit scared me. Realization dawned across her face. It was all a ruse. Cole was immediately upon the disguised demon, clubbing her over the head with his loot. His mind was racing as he launched himself forward. This child was the only person on the street who reacted to the illusory crystals like the bombs they were disguised as. A part of him felt a tiny flash of guilt for clobbering a kid, but this was a life or death situation. The disguised demon's form immediately dissolved into a mass of black mist as he backpedaled from the impact. Landing on her feet, the mist swiftly reformed from a child into the more intimidating figure of the cloaked mage. The demon huffed furiously as she attempted to regain her balance. "Oh, you think you're so clever, don't you?" Cole didn't give her any time to react before she shoved a fistful of real arcane crystals into the demon's empty hood. She let out a scream as the glowing crystals filled the interior of her hood with a thunderous glow. Cole immediately twisted behind her, his injured left arm flailing limply in the air. He bit down on the wire he wrapped around the demon's hood and yanked as hard as his torn body would allow. Zello struggled and thrashed wildly in an attempt to throw the hyena off her back, but to no avail. Her hood was sealed shut by a dozen charged arcane crystals trapped inside her head. Cole felt a flicker of satisfaction as the sizzling glow of lightning grew brighter and brighter. This was payback. A blinding explosion tore through the air, sending shockwaves blistering through the streets. All Cole's senses whited out. His world was only the sensation of his broken body skidding across the hard cobblestone like a ragged tumbleweed. Painful waking filled his ears as he struggled to get a grip on his surroundings. He was still tumbling. People were screaming. Chunks of stone and wood soured the crowds as the breeze from the explosion rained down. Towers of smoke filled the air and burned his nostrils. Cole winced as he landed on his bleeding shoulder, his wound making a splatter of blood across the broken stone. He let out a hoarse scream at the pain and found slight comfort that his voice has returned. "Over there. We got an injured kid there." Several saddles passed over him as passerby flocked around the bloody hyena, asking him if he's alright. Looks like that demon's illusion spell finally wore off. Cole barely had the strength to lift his head, only nodding weakly as someone offered him water. Another kind stranger even tore off pieces of cloth to bandage his bleeding wounds. Cole squeezed his eyes shut and finally let himself drop his head back in relief. The fight appeared to be over. There were hundreds of people on the street rushing to aid the wounded and investigate what caused the explosion. Not even a demon would be brave enough to pick a fight in such a crowd. City watch and the holy nights had been called. They should be here with medics pretty soon. How many injured do we have? This hyena kid's got the worst of it. Most other folks only got some mild scratches or were momentarily stunned by the blast. Sweet Creator, what in the world happened here? Oh gosh, there's someone in the smoke. Were they standing right in the blast? Help us carry them out, quickly now. Cole snapped his head up, his heart skipped a beat. There was no way. Dread slowly crept up his throat as he struggled to focus his blurry vision. Sure enough, the silhouette of a cloaked figure was standing in the billowing smoke of the explosion. Despite a few scratches and cuts, it appeared as though the demon was relatively unharmed. She stood deadly still whilst looking directly in his direction. A spark of fear gripped Cole's chest, and he struggled to stand and crawl away, but it was no use. The figure raised her hand. A flood of foul, arcane energy swept through the street like a violent ocean wave. Cole watched in horror as all the street swayed unsteadily on their feet. One by one, each person began collapsing to the ground in an emotionless heap. Every single person. The street was quickly transformed into a horrific sight of prone bodies. There was no one left to help them now. Zelos stepped forward, growling quietly as he approached the defenseless hyena. You put up a better fight than I expected, little mortal. The time for fun is over. The demon's cloak unfurled as it slowly filled with infernal flames. Zero's weightlessly cloak waving like dark wings as he towered above him menacingly. Violet tendrils raced through the air, filling it with the coppery smell of charged arcane energy. Unbearable heat washed across the land as Zelos readied her foul destructive arcane magic. I've enjoyed our little game, but I'm afraid I've run out of patience. Her voice lost all of its previous cruel and playful tone. Her words rumbled like distant thunder, ageless and absolute, like that of a true demon. Hand over my little brother, or I'll blast you into a pile of ashes. My host's orders be damned. I am Zelos, the faceless, envy demon of the infernal plane, and I shall not be crossed. Cole's vision was swimming. He could barely stand, his wounded legs swaying in unsteady tremors. He looked up at the building light through exhausted, half-lit eyes. Dread slowly clawed its way through his chest. Malice slithered out and struggled onto his shoulders, a snake bleeding from a dozen wounds mirroring his own. He nudged Cole frantically, his gaze bouncing between the fiery glow of his sister and the defeated expression on the hyena's face. What are you just standing there for, puny mortal? This is no time to freeze up. The hyena made no effort to move. Malice gulped and nudged him again desperately. Come on, you're my first mortal. It can't be over so quickly. Do something clever, like you always do. Cole paused for a moment before slowly shaking his head. Sorry, I'm out of tricks. Cole squeezed his eyes shut for one last time. Cole felt a sharp yank. The infernal beam crashed down, only to meet the cold stone on the street. He stared in bewilderment, shock, as the waterfall of infernal light tore through the ground like butter, leaving a deep crevice where he stood moments before. Cole turned his blurry gaze towards his savior, his heart skimming a beat. Hammers leaped through the air and scared a safe distance away, bow drawn and Cole tucked safely under his arm. The older hyena gently rested Cole down behind the safe cover of a street corner. He scanned over his battered body with concern. Are you alright? Cole opened his mouth to answer, but could only manage a quiet, bloody gurgle. Hammer's eyes widened before narrowing into deadly slits. The older hyena brushed a worried hand over Cole's cheeks before stating. Wes, I'm here. Hammers turned his gaze towards the airborne demon. A quiet fury filled his entire being as he tightened his grip on his bow. From high above them, Zelos cackled in mocking amusement. Has another little mortal come to play? Very well. I hope you prove to be more durable than the last one. In a flash, Hammers let loose a volley of arrows up at Zelos. She continued to cackle as she danced through the air, dodging every last one. The arrows sailed past her and buried themselves into the surrounding buildings. Huh. Where are you even aiming? Hammers barely spared her a glance as he took a mad sprint in her direction, his gaze fixed solely on the arrows embedded above. The arrows dug deep into the wooden walls of the buildings, their sharp blue arrowheads gleaming in the sun. In a flash, the arrowheads crystallized and bloomed like jagged flowers. Every arrow from Hammonds's volley erupted into a shower of glass swords and wires across the street. Zelos swore loudly and took a dive, but it was too late. The piercing rain of blades ripped through her cloak and forced her down from her height advantage. Serrated wires attached to swords dug into her sides as she struggled to untangle herself as she fell. Before the demon could even touch the ground, Hammonds nailed her in the abdomen with a flying kick. The blow landed with such force that the deep sound of impact reverberated painfully through the street. Zelos let out a guttural hiss, her form simmering slightly in a layer of black mist as she struggled to keep her current form intact. Hammonds' eyes narrowed. Even in his split-second moment midair, he growled with unsatisfied fury. Not yet, not nearly enough. The lavender hue in his eyes suddenly sharpened like glowing embers. It was as though a cannon had gone off. The air rippled as the sheer force of the kick sent the demon flying like a rag doll across the street. The recoil was enough to rocket Hammonds backwards at breakneck speeds. Hammonds landed gracefully on his feet with hands outstretched. His body was sent skidding across the cobblestone street from the force of impact. He tightened his grip on his trap wires, pulling them back as he rolled out the inertia of his fall. Sand and dirt scattered into the air as he flew backwards, his wires growing dangerously taut in his grab. At the other end of the street, Zelos's flying body halted immediately as hundreds of wires snapped shut around her. She hissed and tried to squirm, but the wires were too tight to budge. Not even an inch. The serrated edges of the wire dug deeper and deeper into her trap form as Hammonds pulled them ever tighter. Tighter and tighter and tighter. Zelos snarled and screamed, struggling fruitlessly against her restraints, but there was no escape. Black-red mist bled from her cuts like billowing clouds of blood. Hammonds' eyes were steady with cold and clinical wrath as he continued to pull. Tighter and tighter. The demon let out one last blood-curdling scream as the serrated wires finally cut through. Her body scattered in all directions. Pieces of flesh and solid black mist fell to the cold cobblestone floor in sickening splatters. And then it was over. The remains of the demon sat motionless on the ground, devoid of life. Hammonds approached the scattered flesh slowly, as though expecting them to retaliate in some way. After several minutes of nothing, he finally lowered his bow with a sigh. Hammonds quietly holstered his weapons and turned his gaze behind him. Now that the fight finally settled down, Cole cautiously poked his head out from his hiding spot. He quietly limped towards Hammonds with an awkward look. Hey, stop moving. You're worsening your wounds. Sit down and rest while I go get a medic. Even in his ragged state, Cole Scoffer resisted the urge to retort Hammonds' bossy tone. He fought against it in the end. He barely had the voice to argue, after all. Cole cleared his throat again and attempted to swallow down the coppery bile, obstructing his voice. Hey, Hammonds. Thanks. The old hyena's face softened. He averted his gaze, seamlessly feeling equally awkward in the moment. Of course, any time. The two of them suddenly give a startled jump. Black mist erupted from Zelos' dismembered flesh and filled the arena in a dense dark fog. After Hamilton and Cole were enveloped in the impenetrable cloud of black, Cole coughed and waved his hand vigorously to fan the air, but to no avail. It was so dark that he could scarcely see his own hand. What's happening? Shouldn't that demon be dead? A shrill yet diminished voice rumbled through the mist. You are such simple creatures. Do I have to remind you that the meaning of the word immortal? You call me impressed. I have not been discorroborated by mortals in at least 2 or 3 centuries. Oh, my little Malice, perhaps you have chosen your host better than I had first thought. You made this job rather fun. Cole felt the little snake rustle slightly in his pocket, but didn't have the strength to speak up. Hammer's stern voice suddenly cut through the stern mist. What do you want? We killed you once already. Leave, or I'll do it again. Zealous' laugh simmered through the dense fog. Oh, I like the grit of this one. Tell you what, let's play one more little game. One, and I might give you mortals a few days of peace. That's a treat. In a gust of swirling wind, the black mist faded away. Cole coughed and blinked against the southern brightness. Huh? This is bullshit. Standing before him were 2 identical hamsters, both wearing the same look of confusion. The 2 glared suspiciously at each other before turning to look towards Sid. Interesting. I suppose this is a game that she was talking about. The other hammer crossed his arms and gazed towards Cole patiently. Stay calm, Cole. I trust your judgment. That was a very Hammer's thing to say, Cole supposed. He gritted his teeth and glared at the identical figures anxiously. His injuries were taking their toll. It was hard to focus through the burning pain from his raw wounds and rattled body. Cole trained his blurry vision on the 2 older hyenas. Both were very calm, with a tingle of stern energy as they waited for him. Tell me something that only the real hammers would know. One time you tried to pick up Merrill's axe, but you couldn't even buzz it. Then you kicked it and fractured one of your toes. You made the whole guild tell everyone that you got the injury from a very tough battle. You're definitely an asshole like the real hammers. He turned towards the other hyena. What about you? You've neglected your guild chores for exactly 22 weeks. That includes cleaning the supply closets, many of which were your own messes, restocking the pantry and wiping down the tavern counter. You're very good at keeping the library organized, though. Cole grumbled. That's some very accurate nagging. Cole scratched his chin thoughtfully before taking a step back. His eyes suddenly lit up as arcane energy flooded his sight. Both ghostly gaze and detect magic filled his vision as he scanned over the 2 hyenas carefully. Cole scowled with frustration. Physically, they both appeared completely identical down to the finest hair on their body. He also couldn't detect any infernal magic on either of them. There was a suspicious whisk of nature magic hovering over both of their legs, but they were identical all the same. Malice mentioned this before, didn't he? His sister was the perfect shapeshifter, copying both body and memory to their finest detail. Though not every detail. Cole's eyes widened as he turned his gaze towards the pockets lining the 2 hamsters' cloaks. He cautiously plucked a sharp stone off the floor and tossed it towards the first hamster. The moment the stone made contact, the hammer burst into a cloud of black mist with an amused cackle. The mist swirled into the air like a flock of angry bats hovering far above their heads. Not bad at all. Mortals never cease to be entertaining. Well, a deal's a deal. I'll be seeing you around, little ones. With that, the cloud rolls skyward and ribbons of black mist disappear. Cole and the apparently real Hammers both let out a sigh of relief. Well done, Cole. How did you figure it out? Cole let out a quiet grumble before staggering towards Hammers. He stuffed a hand deep into the older hyena's cloak and pulled out a small stack of parchment. Scowled across each page in neat handwriting were Ilya's handmade recipes, along with a small note that read, Come by for tea sometime. Cole glanced up to see Hammers scratch his head sheepishly. You know, the cooking's actually not half bad. I just like to complain. Hammers cracked a soft smile. Thanks, but I know when you're lying. Cole snorted indignantly. I'm just trying to be nice for once, jackass. Blood suddenly gurgled from his throat. Cole hastily patted down his Belford's cure wounds crystal, but his strength finally failed him. His vision blurred before blacking out, his legs giving way below him. As he fell, the last thing he saw was Hammers' worried face as he rushed in to catch him. Sleep weighed over Cole like a heavy blanket. His whole body felt like lead. Not an ounce of strength was left in him. He could sleep like this for a month and still feel like a wet rag. Let him rest, just a little longer. Cole suddenly felt a soft zap of energy course through his body, and he sat up, eyes wide. His fur stood on end, magic prickling through him like 1,000 tiny static needles. Ow! What the hell? His vision finally returned to reveal Artemis instead, hovering over him with worried looks. Boss, you're finally awake. Are you feeling okay? My head. Please sit still, Cole. I haven't finished healing you yet. That was healing magic? It felt like you were trying to sock me to death with a bunch of little lightning bolts. Artemis tried her best to look annoyed through her cloud of worry. I'm afraid all my spells are expected with lightning, even my healing. There's not much I can do about it. It may be a bit unpleasant, but you can't deny its efficiency. Cole glanced down. Sure enough, most of the minor injuries he had suffered had completely healed over. The puncture wounds in his shoulder and thigh were still painfully sore, but the flesh had scabbed over with what looks like weeks of recovery. What happened? How long was I out for? About an hour or so. Sir Hammers already gave his report of what happened. He explained how the cloaked maze had sent a demon to attack you and other festival goers. Artemis let out a low growl of frustration. How utterly despicable. I should have been there to help defend you. Instead, I was frivolously wasting time at the joust. Sid's large hands rested comfortingly on both their shoulders. I'm just glad you're okay, boss. How are you feeling? Cole groaned and rolled his eyes. Alive, that's all I can ask for, really. He glanced around and finally noticed his surroundings. There were tents lining the streets as medics attended to the people recovering from the mass fainting episode. Church nights in the city watch were posted at every street corner. It looked like things were under control, at least. Cole struggled onto his feet and winced at a stolen stab of pain. You shouldn't be moving so soon. He ignored Artemis' protest and rubbed his eyes tiredly. Where did Hammers go? Well, after the knights and city watch secured the arena, he ran off to... Hey, what do you think... Where do you think you're going? I need to talk to Hammers. It's urgent. A small smile spread across Cole's face as his companions immediately stood up to follow him. It was almost heartwarming. if a bit nosy. It's a private talk. Why don't you two go investigate the scene of the battle for some clues? We're not leaving you alone, boss. What if that demon shows up again? I'll be fine. The demon won't be making any moves after the beating Hammers gave him. You guys are more clear-headed than I am right now. You'll be more useful in the investigation. The two began to protest, but Cole waved his hand dismissively. I'll be fine. Plus, what would people think if the chosen one's babysitting me instead of helping the wounded? Barnaby crossed her arms reluctantly. I suppose if you insist. However, if you are in need of aid, yell and I will come running. She gave a curt bow before marching towards the tent area. What? You're not gonna go all mother hen on me again, are you? Sid shook his head with a small smile. Nah, I just figured you want to know how the bowling tournament turned out. Clyde's got a bunch of sponsors just lining up to invest in his future blacksmithing plans. Your little scheme worked like a charm. Cole felt a flash of triumph that was quickly replaced by guilt. Oh, that's good. Did you know? Sid let out a small chuckle and nodded. Thanks for having faith in me, but next time you don't have to trick me into it. Sid kneeled down and placed a firm hand on Cole's shoulder. His grip felt warm and affirming against Cole's cold, ragged skin. You're not alone anymore. If there's anything you need, please just ask. Cole's stomach lurched at this candid and undeserved display of trust. He suddenly felt a little sick. Yeah, thanks, man. I should really get going now, though. He hastily turned to leave, but stopped as a thought crossed his mind. Say, while you're out there investigating, could you do me a favor? During the fight, I vaguely remember accidentally blowing up Clyde's shop. Again, could you go check and make sure he's alright? Even needs help paying for the damages. Use your tournament winnings to help him out, and I'll pay you back later. Gotcha. Are you sure you don't want to come with me? I'm sure Clyde will be happy to talk with you again. Cole shook his head furiously. Before the fight, the demon disguised himself as Clyde and said some things. I don't think I'm really in the headspace for heart-to-heart right now. Oh, alright. Are you sure you should be talking to Hammerstein? Yeah, the guy had to deal with me for 23 years. I'm sure he can handle whatever that I had to say. Colgate said that we were starting Pat before making his way down the street on unsteady legs. Sid watched the little hyena leave with a concerned look. He was putting on a brave face, but something about Cole felt a little off. I really shouldn't leave him alone right now. Let's see. What else do we investigate first? Alright, so we're gonna stop right here. Alright, so despite being nearly perfect in disguising herself as Hammers, Cole managed to figure out that one of them was a fraud. So it had to do something with Hammers' pockets, and the demon. And as soon as Cole figured out who the real Hammers was and who the fake one was, the demon kind of had a little bit of respect for Cole for figuring out her differences, So Hammers was able to oh, he didn't really defeat the demon because it's immortal, but it was able to at least defeat it for the time being. I mean, it will we'll have to deal with it later on or eventually. But anyway, apparently somebody made a deal with this demon. We don't know who that person is yet. And it's kind of like the deal that Malice has been trying to make with Cole for a while now. Alright, so Cole, he's managed to hold his own against a demon, even though eventually got kind of defeated when Hammers came to save him. But he managed to hold his own. He's very good at faking. He's a quick thinker, and that allowed him to hold his own against the demon for a while. That's certainly something needed for a leader. Quick thinking and strategizing in just a short amount of time. So there's so apparently that demon was the one that caused everybody to be in pain. So we got to see Hammers in action, and he was awesome. He was able to defeat the demon. He didn't kill her, but he was able to defeat her to the point where she just decided to stop for the time being and go somewhere else and regain strength. So we enjoyed that. This game has a lot of amazing CGs and it's amazing. I mean, that's what we love about this VN here, all the CGs, because you really get to see the action, all the graphics and effects, all that. It's amazing. It's dog barking out here. So, like I said, it has amazing CGs, and you actually get to see what's happening instead of just reading the text. That's really what I like about this VN. I know it costs a lot to make them, and it's very time consuming. But so that's the reason why a lot of VNs don't really do much for CGs. But when they do put a big effort, to making CGs, if they're able to, it makes the VM more enjoyable because you actually get to see what's happening. So next time we'll see Cole investigate the different parts of town. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.